The stars over Violia shimmered like scattered jewels, casting silver light across the crystal towers of the alien capital. The air was thick with the hum of distant engines, and a faint vibration ran through the city streets as countless species moved with purpose. The alien queen, Zyra, observed from her elevated balcony, her many eyes scanning the crowds below. Every movement, every expression, every whisper mattered to her. Diplomacy in this corner of the galaxy had never been simple, but she had mastered it, just as she had mastered every challenge her empire faced. Today, however, was different. Today, a human would step into the halls of power, chosen to represent their fragile planet on a stage far beyond its understanding. Humans were small, soft-bodied creatures, their technology basic, their history short by galactic standards. The other alien delegates whispered among themselves, expecting the humans to falter under scrutiny as they had countless times before. But Zyra was intrigued. This selection ceremony had a purpose she did not fully understand herself, perhaps to remind her that even the smallest sparks could ignite great fires. The plaza below was a kaleidoscope of colors and forms. Alien citizens and delegates moved with grace, some gliding above the ground on hover discs, others walking with the slow dignity of centuries. The architecture reflected their mastery of materials unknown to humans. Spires of glass that bent light into shifting patterns, bridges that curved impossibly, and structures suspended in midair, defying gravity with elegant precision. Among them, humans appeared almost fragile, their movements hesitant in comparison, yet undeniably alive with purpose. Lyra Solon, chief envoy of Earth, walked with careful precision through the plaza, her eyes scanning the candidates. She was a tall woman, calm and confident, with a mind as sharp as the blade she carried in metaphor alone. Her task was not easy. Choose one human to step forward, one human whose abilities might persuade the galaxy that Earth's children were more than a curiosity. Her gaze fell on the man at the edge of the crowd, observing rather than participating. He was not tall, not striking in the traditional sense, but there was something in the quiet intensity of his eyes that pulled her attention. Dr. Cale Ryden had come to this alien world expecting scrutiny, ridicule, perhaps even dismissal. His background as a scientist and strategist had prepared him for complex calculations and theoretical puzzles, not interstellar politics. Yet, there was a calmness in his presence, a subtle assurance that he could handle what lay ahead. He did not speak to anyone, nor did he flinch at the alien gazes that measured him like a specimen under a lens. Instead, he breathed, observed, and considered as he always did. When Lyra approached him, the crowd parted like water flowing around stone. Other candidates glanced at him, some with envy, some with curiosity, most with skepticism. "You," she said simply, her voice carrying over the murmurs, "will represent Earth." There was no fear, no hesitation, only a quiet acknowledgement. "I understand," he said. His voice was calm, even in this foreign and overwhelming environment. A ripple ran through the audience. The alien delegates had expected theatrics, or perhaps a struggle to assert dominance. Instead, the human accepted her choice without question. Zyra's eyes narrowed slightly. This human was not impressive in size or strength, yet there was something magnetic in the simplicity of his acceptance. The queen descended from her balcony with the poise of one who had mastered centuries of power. Her form was elegant, her skin shimmered in shifting hues, and her multiple eyes reflected intelligence and scrutiny. She moved slowly, every step measured, the air around her seeming to bend to her presence. Cale did not flinch. He did not bow. Instead, he observed her as he had learned to observe patterns in nature, in data, in life itself. "Dr. Ryden," Zyra's voice carried across the plaza, smooth and commanding. "You have been chosen by your envoy. Do you accept this responsibility?" "I do," he replied. His tone carried no arrogance, no uncertainty. It was simple, direct, human. A murmur of surprise spread through the alien crowd. Humans were rarely this confident. They often overestimated their own abilities or crumbled under pressure. This one seemed different. Perhaps there was more to them than the galaxy had noticed. Lyra stepped back, allowing Kale to face the Queen fully. "The trials will begin shortly," she said. "Be prepared for challenges unlike anything you have encountered before." Yet even he could not predict the ingenuity of alien testing, the ways in which species with centuries of experience in strategy and manipulation might attempt to break him. He would have to rely not on strength, nor on technology alone, but on something uniquely human: adaptability, intuition, and the courage to face the unknown. The first trial began in the Hall of Synthesis, a massive structure that seemed alive. The walls were smooth and reflective, the floor a shifting lattice of light. As Kale entered, he felt a strange hum under his feet, a vibration that seemed to respond to thought. Aliens moved effortlessly through the space, their minds attuned to patterns and energy flows that humans could barely sense. Kale took a deep breath. The trial was deceptively simple: solve a complex sequence of interlocking puzzles that combined logic, mathematics, and spatial reasoning. The other candidates approached it with precision and caution, using their knowledge of alien systems and centuries of training. Kale, however, paused. He did not rush. He observed. He noted patterns the aliens had overlooked, connections that seemed insignificant but were critical. Slowly, methodically, he began to move pieces into place, each choice guided by instinct and careful calculation. Hours passed, though time in the hall felt different, distorted by the alien environment. Aliens watched in growing astonishment as the human progressed. Where they expected hesitation, they saw clarity. Where they expected errors, they saw insight. Kale's hands moved with calm purpose, adjusting, correcting, and advancing, until the final sequence clicked into place. A soft chime echoed through the hall, and the lattice of light solidified into a stable pattern. A stunned silence followed. Even the Queen herself, observing through the hall's crystal panels, allowed a flicker of surprise to cross her face. The human had solved a puzzle that had challenged multiple species for decades. The crowd erupted, not in applause, but in a wave of whispers, some incredulous, some admiring. Lyra smiled slightly, a rare expression for her. She had known he was capable, but even she had not anticipated this. Kale's brilliance was not just in intellect. It was in his ability to see beyond what was immediately visible, to connect disparate pieces in ways others could not imagine. The Queen descended further into the hall. She moved with grace, every eye upon her, and stopped before Kale. "Impressive," she said, her tone measured, almost curious. "Few have accomplished what you just did. Humans are unusual." Only purpose. Humans were supposed to be small, weak, insignificant. Yet here he stood, a single human, solving challenges that tested the galaxy's best. The Queen turned, addressing the assembled delegates. "Let this be a reminder: power is not always in size or history or the mastery of the known. Sometimes it lies in the courage to face the unknown and the clarity to see what others cannot." And yet he felt a spark of determination. He was not here to simply survive. He was here to show that humans, underestimated and overlooked, could rise to meet challenges that seemed insurmountable. That spark, quiet and unwavering, was what would carry him forward. Outside, the twin suns of Violia dipped low, casting long shadows across the plaza. The stars above seemed to watch, indifferent yet ever-present, witnesses to the first steps of a human who might change the galaxy's perception of his species. Lyra watched Kale, seeing in him not just a representative, but a symbol of hope for humanity. And the Queen, in her silent observation, began to wonder. Perhaps humans were not as insignificant as history suggested. Perhaps in their simplicity lay something extraordinary. The first part of Kale's journey had ended, but the true trials were only beginning. The galaxy would soon see what humans could achieve when they were given a chance to rise, not by power alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and an unyielding spirit. The morning light on Virlia shimmered over the spires and terraces of the alien capital, casting long shadows that danced across the plazas. Kale Ryden stood on the edge of the observation balcony, overlooking the vast city below. The air was alive with motion, a symphony of alien voices, hums and whispers carried by the wind. Today was the second phase of the trials, and Kale knew the challenges ahead would be far more complex than the first. The Hall of Synthesis had tested his intellect, but the trials ahead would test his adaptability, creativity, and courage in ways he could not yet predict. Lyra Solon approached quietly, her boots making no sound on the polished surface. Her eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon, but her attention was on Kale. "The next trial is not like the first," she said. "It will test how you respond under pressure, how you adapt to situations with no clear solutions. Are you ready?" He had come prepared for the unknown, but he also understood that preparation could only carry him so far. In this galaxy, instincts, quick thinking, and intuition mattered just as much as knowledge. The first challenge of the day took them to the Chamber of Patterns, a massive hall suspended above a glowing energy field. The walls seemed to shift constantly, displaying patterns and sequences that made no immediate sense. Aliens moved through the chamber with practiced precision, their many limbs and heightened senses allowing them to perceive subtle cues invisible to humans. Kale watched them for a moment, then stepped forward, taking in the environment with careful observation. The objective was simple in words: navigate the chamber, decipher the patterns, and reach the center where a device awaited that needed precise calibration. Yet the complexity of the patterns and the constant change made the task almost impossible for anyone who relied solely on logic. The aliens expected humans to falter, to panic, to fail. Kale took a deep breath and let his mind settle. Rather than trying to predict every shift, he began to focus on the underlying principles of the patterns, looking for symmetry and repetition. Hours passed as he moved carefully, testing one sequence after another, adjusting his movements as he went. He noticed details that others ignored: the slight flicker of light when a pattern reset, the faint hum that indicated a stable path. Slowly, methodically, he advanced. Other candidates grew frustrated, their impatience showing in their movements. Some relied on brute force or repeated trial and error, while Kale relied on observation and reasoning. His progress was slow but steady, and it drew the attention of the observing delegates. Whispers spread: the human might actually succeed where others had struggled for decades. Finally, Kale reached the center of the chamber. The device before him was complex, with interlocking circuits and energy conduits. The instructions were alien in every sense, written in symbols that carried meaning beyond language. Kale studied it carefully, tracing the flow of energy and the relationships between components. Slowly, he began to manipulate the device, adjusting its configuration with a mixture of calculation and intuition. The device hummed to life, energy flowing smoothly where chaos had ruled moments before. The chamber stabilized and the walls ceased their constant shift, displaying a final pattern of triumph. Kale stepped back, exhausted but calm. He had not only completed the challenge, but had done so in a way that even the alien delegates could not have anticipated. Queen Zyra watched from her observation platform, her eyes narrowing with interest. The human was proving more capable than she had imagined. There was a quiet brilliance to his approach, a way of seeing problems that others overlooked. He was not relying on raw power, experience, or technology alone. He was relying on the human mind, with all its creativity, intuition, and adaptability. The next challenge awaited in the Garden of Trials, a sprawling area filled with exotic flora, some of which reacted to touch, sound, or thought. The task was to navigate the garden, locate specific specimens, and collect data that would later be used to solve a complex puzzle. Aliens moved gracefully among the plants, reading subtle cues that most humans would never perceive. Kale stepped carefully, observing the plants' responses to movement and sound. He noticed patterns: Some plants reacted to emotion, some to light, some to vibration. By adjusting his own approach and moving with deliberate calm, he began to navigate the garden successfully. Along the way, he discovered a pattern the others missed entirely, a connection between two plant species that allowed him to solve part of the puzzle in minutes. The alien observers murmured in astonishment. Humans had never been this precise in such an unpredictable environment. While other candidates relied on brute force or instinct alone, Kale combined observation, reasoning, and adaptability. His approach was human, yet it produced results that seemed almost alien in their effectiveness. After completing the garden challenge, Kale was guided to the arena of decisions, a chamber designed to test leadership and strategy. Holographic simulations displayed potential conflicts between star systems, rogue factions, and ethical dilemmas that required careful navigation. Delegates were expected to propose solutions, often in opposition to each other, revealing who could lead under pressure. Kale observed the simulations carefully. Many alien candidates jumped to assert dominance, proposing aggressive solutions that would resolve problems quickly but risked collateral damage and alien resentment. Kale thought differently. He looked for solutions that balanced strategy and diplomacy, anticipating reactions from multiple species and considering the long-term consequences. When it was his turn to speak, he outlined a plan that combined logic, negotiation, and creative use of available resources. His strategy was unconventional. Rather than using force, he leveraged incentives, alliances, and psychological insight into the motivations of each faction. The room went silent. Aliens who had expected aggression now realized that this human had crafted a solution that was not only effective but elegant. Queen Zyra leaned forward, intrigued. Humans were often reactive, impulsive, and short-sighted. This one demonstrated clarity, foresight, and flexibility. She had underestimated the species, and now she found herself reconsidering everything she thought she knew. The final trial of the day was unexpected. Kale and the other candidates were led to a chamber filled with strange machinery, devices of unknown purpose, and alien artifacts whose functions were intentionally obscure. The task was simple in explanation but fiendishly complex in execution. Identify a device that could stabilize a volatile energy source threatening the surrounding planets. Failure would result in a simulated disaster scenario, testing not just skill but composure under immense stress. Kale approached the machinery cautiously. He studied each device, tracing energy flows and patterns. While others rushed, guided by assumptions or guesswork, Kale relied on observation and deduction. Slowly, he pieced together the function of the devices, understanding not only how they worked but how they interacted. When he activated the correct device, the energy stabilized, the simulation ended without disaster, and a collective gasp spread through the observers. Even the Queen could not hide her admiration. The human had succeeded where the galaxy's most advanced minds might have failed. His calm, measured approach, combined with creativity and insight, had turned an impossible task into a triumph. Lyra approached him after the trials. "You did more than I expected," she said softly, her eyes reflecting both pride and awe. "You're not just solving puzzles, you're showing them what humans can do." Sometimes, solutions are hidden in plain sight, if you take the time to look. There was power in clarity, courage, and human ingenuity, a power that even she could not ignore. As night fell over Violia, the city glowed under twin moons, casting silver and blue hues across the towers. Delegates returned to their quarters, discussing the day's events with excitement and astonishment. Kale retired to his own quarters, reflecting on the challenges he had faced. He knew this was only the beginning. Greater tests lay ahead, challenges that would push him beyond intellect and strategy into realms of leadership, diplomacy, and resilience. Yet Kale felt a quiet confidence. He had seen the limits of what the galaxy expected from humans, and he had begun to surpass them. The spark within him was growing, a spark of ingenuity, courage, and persistence that could not be ignored. And the Queen, watching silently, had begun to understand that humans might be more than a minor species. They might be something extraordinary. As he prepared for rest, Kale looked out over the city, the twin moons reflecting in his eyes. He knew the next trials would demand more than intelligence alone. They would demand strategy, courage, and the ability to inspire others. And he was ready to meet them. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy might see humans not as weak or insignificant, but as beings capable of shaping the course of interstellar events. And Kale, small and unassuming, carried that potential within him, quietly, steadily, like a flame ready to ignite. The following day, Virelia's twin suns rose slowly over the crystalline spires, bathing the city in a warm golden light. The air buzzed with energy, as if the planet itself recognized the significance of what was unfolding. Kale Ryden stood at the edge of the council plaza, observing the movement of alien delegates with a quiet intensity. The trials had shifted from tests of intellect and observation to something far more unpredictable. Lyra Solon approached him, her expression calm but serious. "The next phase will test your ability to lead," she said. "It is no longer enough to solve problems alone. You will have to guide others, coordinate, and make decisions that affect many species. Are you prepared for that?" The council led the candidates to a vast chamber known as the Arena of Unity, a space designed to simulate interstellar crises. Holographic projections filled the room, depicting multiple star systems, their planets rotating slowly in simulated space. Red alerts blinked across the displays, signaling instability, political tension, and potential conflict. The task was simple in description: devise a strategy to stabilize the systems and prevent escalation. In reality, it was a test of intuition, leadership, and the ability to work with other species under pressure. Many of the alien delegates immediately proposed aggressive actions. Their centuries of experience in conflict had taught them that decisive force was the solution to most problems. Kale, however, paused. He watched their interactions, listened to their assumptions, and observed the patterns of disagreement. He realized that no single approach would work. If he relied on force alone, the situation could spiral out of control. If he tried to appease every faction, the factions would see weakness. Kale began to speak, outlining a plan that balanced diplomacy and strategy. He suggested coordinated communication between systems, targeted interventions to stabilize unstable factions, and the use of resources in ways that emphasized cooperation rather than coercion. His ideas were unconventional, blending logic with psychological insight, anticipating how each species might respond to pressure. The room went silent. Aliens who had expected humans to fail now listened intently. His voice, calm and deliberate, carried authority without arrogance. For the first time, many of them realized that humans could see beyond immediate threats, beyond raw power, to solutions that were subtle yet effective. Queen Zyra observed closely, her many eyes narrowing. She had seen humans succeed in trials of intellect, but this was different. Kale was demonstrating leadership, the ability to orchestrate complex systems and to inspire cooperation among species that were often at odds. Humans were not supposed to excel here, yet he was doing so effortlessly. The simulation escalated. Rogue factions appeared, threatening to destabilize entire star systems. The alien candidates reacted quickly, deploying fleets and military assets. Kale analyzed the projections and anticipated their moves. He redirected resources, suggested negotiations, and introduced contingencies that neutralized threats before they could escalate. His understanding of risk, timing, and psychology allowed him to act decisively, yet without causing unnecessary harm. Lyra watched him in quiet amazement. She had always known that humans had potential, but Kale was proving that their ingenuity was unmatched in situations where rules were fluid and stakes were high. His approach was not just problem-solving, it was problem-preventing, anticipating challenges before they fully emerged. Hours passed as the simulation intensified. Explosions and alerts flashed across the holographic projections, yet Kale remained calm. He guided the delegates, mediating disagreements, explaining his reasoning, and adjusting plans as new information appeared. Slowly, the chaotic scenario began to stabilize. Star systems that were on the brink of conflict found balance, rogue factions were neutralized, and alliances began to form under Kale's direction. The Queen spoke for the first time during the exercise. "Interesting," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "The human not only sees the immediate problem but also the underlying currents that drive conflict. Few beings can do this." The final phase of the day's challenge required Kale to coordinate an actual physical operation. Holographic drones simulated fleets, and he was tasked with guiding them to neutralize a volatile energy source threatening multiple inhabited planets. Any error could result in disaster. Kale studied the data carefully. Rather than issuing direct commands, he relied on observation, prediction, and subtle guidance. He assigned each species to roles that matched their strengths, predicted their likely responses, and introduced contingencies to counter mistakes. He relied not on force or authority, but on clarity of thought and precision of action. The operation began. Simulated energy surges and fleet movements created a chaotic environment. Many candidates panicked, issuing conflicting orders, overreacting to minor setbacks. Kale remained steady, adapting in real time, correcting mistakes before they escalated. The fleets moved as if guided by an unseen hand, stabilizing the energy source with efficiency that astonished everyone watching. By the end of the simulation, the chamber was quiet. All threats had been neutralized. Systems that had teetered on the brink of disaster were stable. The alien delegates looked at Kale with a mixture of awe and disbelief. The human had done what they had believed impossible: solve a crisis with minimal force, maximum efficiency, and without panic. Queen Zyra stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You continue to surprise," she said, her voice measured but tinged with curiosity. "Humans are supposed to be reactive, impulsive, and limited by their lack of experience. Yet you act with foresight, precision, and adaptability. Problems are not always solved by power. Sometimes observation, understanding, and careful planning are enough." Perhaps the human species was capable of far more than anyone had imagined. Lyra placed a hand lightly on Kale's shoulder. "You're changing perceptions," she said softly, "not just of humans, but of what leadership and intelligence can be. I only hope it shows them that humans are worth listening to, worth considering, and not to be dismissed. Power not in numbers, not in technology, not in weapons, but in adaptability, ingenuity, and resolve." The thought was both unsettling and fascinating. Later, Kale was led to a quiet observation deck overlooking the city. The twin moons of Vierlia reflected in the crystalline towers, and the night sky was filled with stars. He breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the day but also a quiet satisfaction. He had faced challenges that no human before him had faced and had succeeded, not because he was stronger or smarter in conventional ways, but because he had approached problems differently. Lyra joined him, silent for a moment as they watched the city below. "Tomorrow," she said finally, "the trials will test more than strategy. They will test courage, adaptability under danger, and your ability to act when outcomes are uncertain. We cannot control everything, but we can do our best with what we have." Flexibility, insight, and the courage to act decisively when others hesitated. These were powers that even the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could not always predict or counter. As the moons cast their glow over Vierlia, Kale felt a spark of determination grow within him. The trials were far from over, and the galaxy would continue to challenge him, question him, and doubt him. But he would continue to rise, showing the potential of humans in ways no one had expected. Somewhere in the shadows, Queen Zyra observed silently. The human's actions had left her thoughtful, perhaps even uneasy. There was something in the clarity of his mind, the calm of his presence, and the depth of his insight that she could not ignore. Humans, she realized, might be more than a minor species. They might be extraordinary. And Kale, small and unassuming, carried within him the proof of that potential. A quiet, steady spark that could grow into a force even the galaxy could not overlook. The following morning, Virelia's skies burned with pale gold as twin suns rose above the crystalline towers, illuminating the city in a glow that made every surface sparkle. Kale Ryden stood on the observation terrace, his mind already racing through the day ahead. Today's trial would not be abstract or theoretical. Today, the Council had prepared something far more dangerous, a simulated interstellar crisis designed to test every quality of a leader: intelligence, adaptability, decisiveness, and courage under pressure. Lyra Solon joined him silently. Her calm presence was a comfort, though she too felt the tension in the air. "This will be different from anything we've faced," she said. "It is no longer enough to think and plan. You will need to act, to make decisions that have immediate consequences." He had expected challenges, but he also understood the principle of the trials. Humans were underestimated because they did not conform to alien expectations. The test was designed to reveal how well a human could operate in chaos and uncertainty. Kale had learned that the key was observation first, understanding second, and action third. The council led the candidates to the simulation hall, a massive dome that projected the farthest reaches of space. Holographic star systems rotated above the chamber, each one marked with alerts and warnings. A rogue faction had seized control of a fleet equipped with energy weapons capable of destabilizing multiple planets simultaneously. The goal was clear: neutralize the threat and restore stability to the systems without causing catastrophic damage. The alien candidates immediately proposed direct strikes, deploying their fleets to overwhelm the rogue forces. Kale studied the projections carefully. Aggressive action could work, but it would risk innocent lives and destabilize alliances. Instead, he scanned for patterns, looking at fleet formations, energy flows, and the behavior of the rogue faction. He noticed something others had overlooked. The rogue fleet followed predictable routines when under pressure, and their leaders reacted strongly to signals of coordination between allies. Kale began issuing instructions, not orders, guiding the alien fleets subtly. He assigned each species to positions that matched their unique abilities and predicted how they would respond to certain cues. Instead of brute force, he relied on strategy, anticipation, and timing. The chamber buzzed with energy as fleets moved according to his plan, responding to his guidance with precision that surprised even their pilots. The rogue fleet launched attacks, energy beams slicing through simulated space. Many candidates panicked, redirecting forces in uncoordinated attempts to counter the threat. Kale remained calm. He adjusted paths, calculated energy dissipation, and created opportunities for allies to intercept without causing unnecessary damage. His understanding of timing, psychology, and adaptability allowed him to act decisively, even under intense pressure. Hours passed, though the simulation seemed endless. Aliens whispered to one another, astonished at the humans' clarity and composure. Where they had expected chaos, Kale had created coordination. Where they had expected hesitation, he acted with precision. Slowly, the rogue faction was contained. Their fleet, overwhelmed by strategy rather than brute force, surrendered or retreated to neutral zones. The system stabilized, and planets that had teetered on the edge of disaster were saved. Queen Zyra observed from her platform above, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. She had seen brilliance before, but this was something different. The human was not just clever, he was creative, adaptive, and capable of anticipating moves that even the most experienced aliens could not. Humans were small and inexperienced, yet this one had orchestrated a complex solution that saved countless lives. Lyra stepped closer to Kale, her voice soft. "You're doing more than winning trials," she said. "You're showing them what humans can achieve when given the chance." This human had changed the expectations of what a species with a brief history and limited technology could achieve. The ripple effect was already visible. Alliances had shifted, respect had grown, and the perception of humans across the chamber was transforming. As the simulation ended, the council presented the final phase. The rogue faction had planted an unstable energy device near a populated planet. The device was designed to detonate if approached directly, and failure to deactivate it would trigger catastrophic destruction. Many candidates hesitated, unsure of how to proceed without risking annihilation. Kale examined the device, considering the data carefully. Its energy readings were erratic, fluctuating between stable and volatile within seconds. A direct approach would trigger a reaction, yet waiting too long risked escalation. He realized the solution required creativity and courage. A combination of remote manipulation, precise timing, and careful coordination with alien allies who could support without endangering themselves. He briefed the delegates quickly, explaining his plan. It was unconventional. Some would create a diversion, others would stabilize the energy fields remotely, and a small team would adjust the device's internal components with exact precision. Many were skeptical, but Kale's calm confidence inspired trust. They followed his instructions, moving as one coordinated force rather than separate species competing for control. The operation began. Energy surges lit the holographic projections, warning alarms blared and the pressure mounted. Kale monitored every movement, adjusting paths, issuing subtle corrections and anticipating unexpected reactions. The device shuddered and pulsed, threatening disaster, but Kale's precise timing and careful coordination allowed the team to stabilize it. Finally, the energy levels normalized and the device was rendered inert. The chamber erupted in astonishment. The alien delegates were speechless. Kale had completed a challenge that combined intellect, courage, and leadership under extreme pressure. He had not relied on force or intimidation. He had relied on human ingenuity, adaptability, and the ability to see solutions others overlooked. Queen Zyra stepped forward, her many eyes fixed on him. "Remarkable," she said softly, almost to herself. "A human, small and unassuming, has done what our greatest minds could not. He has faced danger, chaos, and uncertainty, and emerged not only unscathed but victorious." There was no other choice. There was creativity, courage, and clarity in their actions, a combination that could challenge even the most advanced civilizations. Lyra approached Kale again, her eyes reflecting pride. "You've changed everything," she said. "Not just the trials, but how they see humans. They've begun to understand that our species is capable of more than they imagined." The Queen continued to observe silently, her mind turning over possibilities. If humans could solve problems with creativity and courage, anticipate actions others could not, and lead diverse species under pressure, then their potential was limitless. She had underestimated them, and now she realized she had only glimpsed the beginning. As the sun set over Violia, casting golden and violet hues across the crystalline towers, Kale reflected on the trials. Each challenge had tested him in ways no human had faced before. He had relied on intellect, observation, strategy, and courage. But most importantly, he had relied on human adaptability, the ability to think differently, and the willingness to act decisively when others hesitated. He understood that the trials were not merely tests of skill. They were designed to reveal the essence of humans to the galaxy, a species underestimated, overlooked, but capable of brilliance when faced with challenges that seemed impossible. Kale felt a quiet determination grow within him. The trials were far from over, and the galaxy would continue to challenge him, doubt him, and test the limits of human potential. But he would continue to rise, demonstrating that humans could solve problems, inspire cooperation, and face danger with courage and clarity. Somewhere in the shadows, Queen Zyra observed him with renewed interest. The human's actions had left her in awe. There was a power in humans that she could not ignore, a power not measured in strength, technology, or numbers, but in ingenuity, courage, and the clarity of mind. And Kale, small and unassuming, carried that power within him. A spark of human potential had ignited, and the galaxy was beginning to see that it could not be dismissed. The city of Vyrlia shimmered under the twin suns, their golden light reflecting off crystalline towers and casting long, dancing shadows across the plaza. Kale Ryden walked through the council chambers, his mind alive with the events of the past days. Each trial had pushed him further than he had ever imagined, testing intellect, strategy, courage, and leadership. But today was different. Today, the culmination of his efforts, ingenuity, and human determination would be recognized in a way that might forever change how the galaxy viewed humanity. Lyra Solon walked beside him, her calm presence a steadying force. "The council has prepared a ceremony," she said softly. "It is not just for you, it is for humanity. They will finally see what we can do." Yet every challenge he had faced, every problem he had solved, had begun to shift that perception. The spark of human ingenuity was no longer invisible. It had begun to shine across the stars. The council chamber was vast, circular, and suspended above the city, giving a panoramic view of the surrounding towers. Delegates from hundreds of star systems had gathered, their many forms and colors filling the space with a kaleidoscope of life. The energy in the room was palpable. This was not just a ceremonial gathering. It was a moment of reckoning. Could humanity stand as equals among the greatest civilizations of the galaxy? Queen Zyra stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of every being in the chamber. Her skin shifted in gentle hues of silver and blue, her multiple eyes reflecting intelligence, experience, and curiosity. "Today," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "we acknowledge a species that has, until now, been underestimated. One human among many has demonstrated clarity of thought, courage, and ingenuity that rivals even the most advanced civilizations. Kale Ryden has not only completed our trials but has shown us the potential of his species. Where others expected failure, he demonstrated leadership. Where others relied on power, he relied on understanding. And where others saw limitations, he revealed possibilities. They were proof that humans, even in their simplicity, could achieve extraordinary things. It was not strength, technology, or intimidation that had carried him through. It was insight, adaptability, courage, and the willingness to face the unknown without fear. Delegates murmured among themselves. Aliens who had once dismissed humans now looked upon Kale with respect, and in some cases awe. He had not defeated them in combat or conquered territory. He had led, inspired, and solved problems with intelligence and foresight, and in doing so, he had elevated the status of his entire species. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the council with clarity and calm authority. "The human species has been underestimated for too long. Today, Dr. Kale Ryden proves that we are capable of contributing to interstellar cooperation, to diplomacy, and to problem-solving on a scale previously thought impossible. We are not a species to ignore, and we will continue to rise." He thought of Earth, of the humans who had struggled and persevered despite limitations, and of the potential that lay untapped across their planet. This was not just his victory. It was a moment for all humanity. The final recognition came from the Queen herself. She stepped closer to Kale, her expression one of genuine admiration. "You have left me in awe," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I have seen countless species rise and fall. I have observed intelligence and power in forms both familiar and alien. But humans possess something extraordinary: creativity, courage, adaptability, and a clarity of mind that defies expectations. You have proven that these qualities are more valuable than any technology or weapon." "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only acted as I could, with what I understood and observed. Perhaps it is the nature of humans to see differently, to approach challenges with new eyes. Let it be known that humanity is no longer to be underestimated. Their potential is limitless, and their contributions to interstellar peace and progress will be valued. Today, one human has shown what a species can achieve when it embraces ingenuity, courage, and cooperation." Aliens whispered, some bowing slightly, others exchanging glances of disbelief. Kale's calm and composed presence had achieved what no display of force or wealth could: respect. The human species had earned it through intellect, strategy, and the quiet strength of character. Lyra watched him, pride shining in her eyes. "You've changed history," she said softly. "Not just for yourself, but for every human. They will remember this day." Outside the chamber, Virelia's city glowed under the twin moons. Ships glided silently through the sky, and distant planets shimmered in the night. The galaxy seemed both immense and intimate, a web of connections and possibilities waiting to be explored. Kale knew that humans would face skepticism, resistance, and danger in the years to come, but they had proven one undeniable truth: they were capable of extraordinary things. As the council ceremony concluded, the Queen approached Kale one final time. "You have earned a place among us," she said, her many eyes reflecting both wisdom and a rare warmth. "Not as a conqueror, not as a representative of power, but as a symbol of what humans can accomplish. I would have you serve as an advisor, guiding interstellar cooperation with the insight you have demonstrated. Will you accept?" It was not an offer of dominance or control, but a chance to bridge species, to create understanding, and to shape the future through intelligence, strategy, and humanity. "I will accept," he said finally, his voice calm and resolute. "For the sake of humanity, and for the chance to help others see what we can achieve together. One where humans are seen not as small or insignificant, but as equals, as contributors, and as innovators capable of inspiring even the oldest civilizations." Kale Ryden had become not just a representative of his planet, but a symbol of what humans could achieve when given the chance to rise. That night, as Virelia's twin moons reflected across the crystalline towers, Kale stood once more on the observation terrace. The city sparkled below, alive with energy, with possibilities, with the promise of a future in which humans could contribute on a galactic scale. He felt neither pride nor superiority, only determination. Humanity had begun to shine, but there was much work to be done. Lyra joined him silently, watching the city glow. "You've inspired them," she said. "Not just the aliens, but humans too. They will look to you, and to each other, and see that our species can achieve great things. That is the true measure of our strength." They had potential that could reshape alliances, stabilize systems, and contribute to the galaxy in ways few other civilizations could match. And Kale, standing small but unwavering, had become the embodiment of that potential. He had faced impossible trials, guided diverse species, solved crises, and left the galaxy in awe, not with weapons or power, but with clarity, courage, and human ingenuity. As the night deepened, Kale looked out at the horizon, the stars stretching endlessly across space. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and challenges yet unseen. But he knew that humans, underestimated and overlooked for so long, had shown that they could rise to any challenge, adapt to any situation, and shine when the moment demanded it. And the spark of human potential, quiet and unassuming yet brilliant, had begun to spread across the stars.